Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I want to check out Moon. Because Moon is one of those legendary games that everyone always talks about when it comes to like the list of PlayStation 1 games that we never got. But thankfully, it got a port to Switch recently, and it also got a localization for the first time ever. So I was like, you know what, I'll check it out, because I've always been interested in these weird-ass games. And well, it was worth the time, but at the same time, I could absolutely see why this was never localized in the wake of something along the lines of Final Fantasy VII. With that said, though, I should probably tell you about the overall plot and structure of the game, because I feel like you need to know this. So, when the game begins, you are a child, and you are playing through a short PlayStation 1 RPG, also named Moon. And you have to go around and kill all of the things. It's pretty on rails. It's not something you can really fail. It's like 10 minutes. And eventually, after going through a town, a field, just killing everything in sight, and eventually making it to the evil dragon's lair, just as you're about to deal the finishing blow to the dragon, your mother tells you to turn the game off. You do, you go to bed, and then the TV turns back on, you wake up, and you find yourself sucked into the world of Moon. However, things are a little bit different. The hero is not portrayed as the big hero he is in the game. He is instead an extra character. You're just a ghost that wanders around until you get clothes, and then eventually you'll realize that you don't have the ability to stay awake for very long. You don't have much to do with the world itself. Instead, you have to go around and talk to all the characters, because as they repeatedly try to emphasize in this game, it's all about love. And the main goal of the game is to get love, which will actually actively let you stay out of bed longer. So you go around, you talk to people, you find out their problems, and if you successfully manage to figure out their problems, you will get love, which will increase your love level, which will let you walk around longer. You do also run into the dead monsters that the hero has left behind, and one of the other ghosts in this realm has decided that's a bad thing and gives you the job of trying to save them all. So as you're wandering around, you'll find monster corpses, and if you manage to figure out the hints or simply just catch them, you'll get extra love and not to mention money from them as well. So you can use that to go around and buy new items to, of course, help more people out and gain their love. And that's legitimately the entirety of the game. Most of the game is spent wandering around, talking to people, knocking on doors, buying things, and just trying to figure out what the problem is with all of these people. And it can be a bit restrictive at first, because, as I said before, you do extend the amount of time you can spend out of bed by getting love, by finding people, by capturing spirits and getting enough love in order to stay out of bed just that tiny little bit longer. So you end up kind of in this weird loop where you end up constantly second-guessing yourself about whether or not you'll have the time to, like, stay out of bed and get this one last thing done before you basically just have to hightail it back to bed. Because if you don't, you'll just fall over and die, and you'll have to restart from your last save, which is, of course, the last time you went to bed. I find this to be a little bit excessive, if I'm being honest with you. It's PlayStation 1 era game design, like, no doubt. But I gotta admit, I just find it to be a little bit, for a game that's as relaxing as this, in the rest of the time that you play it, having it be, like, so stressful to go to the effort of, of successfully going to the effort to get one or two things done, then get back to bed, then just get up and do it all over again until you've got enough, enough love to stay out of bed for long enough, can be a bit just, stressful. It gets better when the game opens up, but you'll eventually start having, like, a bunch of things to do, like, at nighttime that you won't be able to do because you can't stay up for the night. You always wake up just as day is breaking. At least to start with. It changes once you get further on. And as a result, you find yourself just constantly bouncing back and forth between exploring areas and getting back to bed, talking to people and getting back to bed, trying to figure out what the hell this thing has to do with this other thing and then getting back to bed. But once you've managed to get over that little hump and you can stay up for like 3/4 of a day, if not longer, the game gets significantly more open because you have the ability to wander around a bit longer. You have the ability to stalk people throughout every single hour of the day, including looking at girls while they're sleeping. Yes, that actually gets you love in this game. Don't mention it. It's a Japanese game. But the one thing that really makes this game work is its charm and its atmosphere. All the backgrounds are pre-rendered, just like, say, Final Fantasy VII, and they're done in this sort of cartoonish way that really gives it this nice homely feel, and all of the characters, all of the monsters, and all of just the general sprite work is really well done for giving this just kind of off-kilter atmosphere that just really works in this game's favor, because I absolutely love the style of it. And not to mention the speech sounds, which are very clearly like chopped up English, just like strung into ridiculous sentences. It sounds hilarious. It gives you a bit of an idea of everyone's character without having them say a single actual word. And the writing is quite well done. The localization was handled very well. Everybody's got very separate characteristics, and you can tell just like who's meant to be who and what who they are, what they care about, and just their general tone of like their character and personality just by reading these very small lines of text by comparison. They do a very good job, even if all the characters are not very deep, but they're all very, like, they're very likable, and it's very enjoyable to go around and just, like, have weird shit happen to you. Because that happens a lot. Like, sometimes you'll just wander into a new area and you'll just, like, stroll around it for 5 minutes, looking at all the dead bodies, seeing, like, objects in the environment that just, like, do something that you aren't quite sure about yet, trying to solve a few puzzles for a bit of extra coin, and it's very odd. It's one of those games that really keeps you on your toes, and because you've got no idea what's going to happen next, but in a good way, in a really enjoyable way, in a way that makes me want to explore and discover more of the game's atmosphere and world and characters. Especially since you've got this whole thing in the background going on where the hero is constantly ahead of you, beating the absolute bejesus out of everything in his path. And then you just get some really weird shit happening, even by this game's standards. Like, I already said before, something along the lines of, having an octopus come down in a UFO and stealing up the monsters once you revive them by capturing their spirits. But there's some even weirder shit that happens as well. Like, the one that really caught me off guard was turning on a rainbow suit and seeing the hero in lingerie on the other side of the rock wall. And then you go to another shy rock and he's like, I'm not as shy as my friends, but seeing the hero in lingerie made even me move. And that was great. Just these little... It packs a lot into a little, because there's really not much more to it other than just wandering around and seeing who you can find and who you can talk to. But it does a really good job at that. There are plenty of items to find, there are fish to get as well. There is a fishing minigame, but I didn't get up to it in the point that I got to in this video because it costs a fair amount of money and I was spending my money somewhere else. And there are plenty of like items to collect, and there are tons of monsters lying around, so you're never going to be left for puzzles, because there are an absolute ton of puzzles. And don't forget, if you're stupid like me and you somehow manage to you somehow manage to run out of time just as you're about to get back to Granny's house, you get to do it all over again. That's like my one main problem with this game. I'd more appreciate if it was like, you lose half your money if you die and someone just like drags you back. It just feels a bit weird to just have you like just fall over and instantly die. Although there are ways around this too. Like, your grandma gives you a cookie every time you leave the house, which gives you just a little bit of extra time if you're willing to eat it, which... Again, it just kind of adds to the sweetness of the whole thing, of just how kind of like, you know, homely and charming the whole thing is. And I gotta admit, the quest that I did before I finished playing the game and decided to record this video, it's something, It's going and saving Grandma from a spirit that's inhabited her home because a monster was killed on her doorstep. And it's just sweet. You know, the writing is sweet. They've clearly got a bit of a theme going on about loving the environment, loving the people, loving yourself. That just sounds weird in the sort of context that I would usually say it, but you get what I'm trying to say. The graphics and the audio are all really well done. Hell, there's a weird little, like, mini disc player that you get that you can find, like, songs for, and you can make your own soundtrack for the game if you so desire. It's just kind of strange, and they're clearly not trying to actively screw you over. Like, for example, time isn't always ticking in this game, and there's this flashing light on the clock that alerts you to exactly when time is progressing. Like, most games don't do that. But this game does, at least when it comes to, like, timing mechanics. Like, sometimes it's obvious, right, that when you're talking to someone that time isn't progressing in the field, right? But this game is just, like, it constantly lets you know when time is going and when time isn't going. And I just appreciate that little bit, that little touch, because it makes me realize that they made the whole get home and sleep before you die mechanic happen for a reason, right? They made all that, they did that for a reason. They have done all of these, like, little hints and all of these little monsters for a reason. All of the writing is pushing towards a certain point. As to what point that is, I couldn't really tell you because this game's gonna take a fucking age for me to beat, and I'm not going to spend the time doing that because, yeah, that base gameplay, which is 90% walking back and forth between your house and what it is you're trying to do, it's gonna take a while. A lot of people have said that this game is one of the longer games on the PlayStation 1, and I can believe it, so I'm not gonna be able to play Moon to the end, although I do really look forward to someone putting out a good Let's Play of it. With that said, though, outside of, like, you know, the timing mechanic being a little bit strict for my personal enjoyment, at least at the beginning, when the game opens up, it gives you a very sweet and charming little exploratory adventure crossed with a bit of puzzle game going on in there. And it's got a lot of just weird stuff going on, which I can't help but appreciate. It's a really nice little game, and I'm really happy that it finally came over to English so that some people might play it, but yeah, I can see that 90% of it being walking around, turning a few people off. I don't really know what else to say. Admittedly, I'm going to be cutting down this video a bit because I'm just going to be jumping back and forth between some of the more notable moments of, like, this hour and a half of footage that I got because, again, it really is just 90% walking. But if you like the idea of walking around, solving puzzles, exploring a world that's been left in the wake of the hero in the RPG adventure, then I would highly recommend you get Moon. Because it's really well done for what it is, and I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. I just wish I had more time to play it. This has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time.
In UPM, you must have an $1 Assistant Director, second, get in the right, that's the amount. In UPM, you must have Lột bạc. Lột bạc. Ẩu. Lột bạc. Ẩu. 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 Lột bạc. Ẩu. Never. Une heure à toi, ça dépend de Une heure à toi, ça dépend des... Une heure à toi, ça dépend... La boîte rien, les canards, voilà mon temps Benjamin. Rien, les canards, voilà. Peut se faire un seul pour les aimer. La boîte rien pour les... Pour les aimer, temps Benjamin. Et c'est tout.
Lecz sercu rywają piękniejsi. Być może piękniejsi. Na drzwi być może, być po polu. Lecz serce, dziękuję bardzo. Być po polu. Będę mówił, dziękuję. Piękniejsze. Lecz sercu rywają bez serca. Być po polu. Lecz sercu rywają. Będę mówić nad Wisłą, lecz Wolskiego. Stanisława. Być może gdzie indziej Wolskiego. Stanisław.